Good morning, all my people. Welcome to Throwback Tuesday. It is that time of the month, and we are bringing back something from the archives, and it has inspired something else. So, Throwback now is an inspiration of something that I may have done years and years ago, decades ago, actually. So, welcome. This is always a really fun release day, and it's fun to go back through some of those old catalogs. This one is a loose inspiration. So it is, it's similar in some ways and 100% different in others. So this is what I mean by inspired. And usually what I do is I change them up so that they can be watercolored. Watercolor has changed a lot, and stamping has changed a lot, in the decades since these were released. So it's fun to go through and change them up some. So let me say hi to my people who are on. And I see you guys, early birds, are on here. So I love that you say hi early. Hello, Terry. Terry is on. Kathy, hello. Kathy Akers. Barbara, good morning. Hello to all of you. Laura, good morning from City. Oh my goodness, Laura. Wow, is that just been absolutely unbelievable what is happening in Southern California and LA? Just unbelievable. Wow, we are just, these people are just, in our thoughts, in our prayers, for the incredible loss that they've had and affecting, every area. It's going to affect all of California and all of us, really, because what an absolute massive loss. Just unbelievable. So praying for all of you, Laura, in Southern California. Mardell, hello. Mardell, I'm a newbie, just started yesterday. Welcome. We're so happy to have you on here. Learning from Kathy Johnson, who is your #1 fan. Okay. Well, thanks, Kathy, for bringing Mardell along. That is awesome. We love to have you on here. Welcome. Jen, good morning. Carol, good morning. Cindy, hello from Kansas. Hello. Carmen, good morning. Good to have you on. Simone, hello. Diana, hello. Hope you're doing better, Diana. No, you've been sick. Throwback Day, one of my favorites. Mine too. Mine too. I love this day. Digging out some of these old catalogs and thinking, sometimes going through them and thinking, what on earth was I thinking when I created that particular image? It needs to be redone. So it is fun to look back in the archives. Jeanette, hello. Talented Jeanette from Michigan. Good morning, Jane. Hello. Good morning from Carrie Lynn in Canada. Hello, Carrie Lynn. Good to have you on. Valerie, good morning. Tony, hello. Hello, Tony. Monique. Debbie, hello. Debbie, neighbor Debbie. Linda says, freezing in Wisconsin, 6 degrees, but feels like -12. Probably the wind, huh? We are headed for some cold weather too. Really cold for us here in Oregon. Usually we're in the 40s, and then at night we'll get down to, the high 30s sometimes, but we're going to get into the 20s, and that's really different for us here. It's kind of like when you go to Arizona or somewhere like that and it rains and everybody just kind of, freaks out a little bit. And it's the same here, when it starts getting icy. And those of you who live, in these conditions all winter, that's probably really hilarious to you. But yes, we all just panic. I will fully admit that I do. If there's frost on the road, I am not getting in the car. I just am not doing it. I'm too scared. I can drive in the rain, but not in the icy weather. Sandy from Florida. Okay, that is a complete 180-degree difference. Hello, but it's chilly there. So I think it's getting cold across the country. We're still in that cold snap, and it's chilly is probably what, Sandy? 50? Would that be considered chilly to you? Dana, hello, good morning. Teresa, good morning. Peggy, hello. Love the new set. Me too. I can't wait to show it to you guys because, Kim loves birds. I love birdhouses. I love birdhouses. I love coloring them, and I love making them all different kinds of colors. They're really fun to change up, and it changes up your whole image by the colors that you pick. It honestly does. And it's so fun to do that. So this will be a really fun one. Joyce, hello. Diane, yay, throwback. Ruth Ann is on. Ruth Ann is in the house. Hello. Hello, Ruth Ann. Sheila from Massachusetts, good morning. Deborah from Pennsylvania. Wow, you guys, so good to have you on here. And in this cold weather, this is where we are. We're with each other and we're watercoloring. So yes, that's the perfect thing to do. Jamie, Snowy, Ohio. Burr. Joyce, South Carolina. Hello. Good morning from the Netherlands. Yes, our friends from the Netherlands. Good to have you on, Holly, Northern California. Good to have you. Barbara, Veronica, all the people watching from Belgium. Hello. Welcome. Ruby from Texas. I heard it's getting cold in Texas too. And, you know, we have some friends that live in Texas, and they had snow around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They were making snowmans and sent picture. So that was pretty cool. Andrea from Pennsylvania, good to have you on. Tracy, Chattanooga, how cool. This is so fun for me, you guys. I just love seeing where you're all from. I just love it. And I love to see where you're from and what your weather is. I think that's so cool to think about where you are and what your situation is. Are you, you're in your house, but is it sunny outside? Is it snowing? What's going on around your house? Northwest Missouri. Hello, Carol. Cindy says, I would take the 20s right now. Oh, yes, I bet. So Cindy, you are from, where are you that you would take the 20s? So are you colder than the 20s? Dewita, did I pronounce that right? From Indonesia. Wow, welcome. So happy to have you on here. Love that. Dewita, that's such a pretty name. I hope I pronounced that right. Okay, Peggy says trying to get on YouTube. Facebook is bad. Go to YouTube, you guys. If you're having trouble with Facebook, sometimes it's a little glitchy. You'll probably have better luck on YouTube. So we're streaming live from YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. Kathy says covered in ice and freezing. Oh my goodness. Terry, 29 degrees. 14, Jeanette. Oh wow. Melody, South Carolina. Okay, Elizabeth, chilly in Florida, high of 60. Nights are in the 40s, so that would be chilly. That would be balmy here. I would take that. 60 during the day, that would be awesome. Leilani, hello. Northern California, Maryland. Cindy from New York. Wow, you guys, this is so much fun. Amy, your backdrop is extra fun and happy looking. Okay, yes, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. It's going to be about time to change it up again. So we're just kind of thinking about what we can do for spring to really make it look really springy and happy. Happy is the key word. It should look happy. Karen from British Columbia. Hello, probably freezing cold there. Mary from sunny but chilly Arizona. Okay. Peter and Wendy from the Netherlands. Hello, good to have you guys on. Vicky, hello from Oklahoma. Teresa, let's see. Teresa, happy to watch the throwback from Northern California. Welcome. Sunny here, Holly says, in the upper 40s. Burr. 40s is just cold. And you know what? It's probably in the high 30s here. Maybe it's 40 by now, but it's foggy. It's foggy. And it just like, the cold just goes through it clear to your bones. Do you ever feel like that? Where if the cold just seeps in and it's just freezing. That's how it is when it's really foggy, kind of overcast and just kind of dreary today, except for all my people on. Okay, Maricela, hello, Huntington Beach. Good to have you. Colleen from Missouri, sunny but 26. Wanda, Tennessee, cold and sunny. Debbie, Maryland, 29. Cindy, 6 in Kansas. Valerie, -1 in Edmonton with cloud. Warm for them. Wow. It's crazy to see how the weather can be, -1 degree in one place and then, sun is out and shining in another. It's so cool that we're all together. Now, okay, Michelle was warm in Hawaii last week on vacation, now in snowy, icy southern Illinois. You probably want to turn around and just get back on that plane. I wouldn't blame you a bit. It's hard to leave Hawaii. It's just really hard to leave there. Hard to leave the sun. When you come back to those, that cold weather and snow or rain, and, you get back home and you're just like, wow, I just miss that sun already. Okay, you guys, Atlanta, it's been downright cold here, but it's 47 today. Okay, maybe that's looking up. Velda, hello from Roseville, where it's low 40s. Oh my goodness. Good to have all of you guys on here. Thanks so much for joining me. This is, like I said, this is a really fun day. This is once a month for those of you who don't know what Throwback is. Throwback is something that we do once a month where we bring something back from the archives, something that is long retired, and it's probably been revised quite a bit. So it's still a throwback because it's inspired by something old, but it is really fun to do, and it's only available for a short time. So we bring it back for 3 days. So this set is good through Thursday, 12 o'clock midnight Pacific time. So you have until then to get it if you absolutely must have it. And it's a fun one. It's a really simple one. So if you're a beginner, this is a really good project to start with, honestly. Easy to break down into separate sections. All the birdhouses are similar, the pots are similar. We know how to add a highlight, we know how to add color, and you just break it down into those little sections, add some florals to it, any florals. Doesn't matter what florals. And I literally dumped out my box of florals, and I just picked a handful, and that's what I used. So you can choose things that you have already. When you're doing something like this, that's, pots and florals, pick something that you haven't used in a long time. I need to be better at that. I try to, I'll come across something and I'll think, oh my word, I haven't used that in weeks and weeks, months. So I'm going to get that out and I'm going to use it. So that's one of my resolutions for this coming year, is to pick up things that I haven't used in a really long time and try to incorporate them into what I'm doing. So I'm going to switch my camera back around and let's get to our project. I'll show you guys what I'm using. I'll show you what inspired it, and I'll show you the set and what comes with it. So let's do it. Okay, for those of you who got on early, I spread out everything that I'm using for those of you who want to come back to this. So when you get your throwback in the mail, you can come back and watch the project and do it with me. And you can see right here everything that I'm using. And it is a ton of sets. And again, you can use whatever you want to use that you have. You don't have to, if you don't have this specific one or this specific one, you could use things just from one set. This one, for example, would do the whole project, just this one stamp set. So don't worry if you don't have, 6 or 8 different sets of stamps to put into this project. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Use what you have. And actually, it changes it up so much to do that. You can change up the look of it just by changing out the florals that you're using. So it's just a really fun thing to do. So I left this up for you guys, and now I'll move it aside. I'll move it out of the way so that I can show you what is in that set. And you can see, this is another thing that I did. I literally picked up every bright pen that I had, thinking of Kim in my ear. Mom, you'd never do anything really super bright. So here we go. This one's really bright. So I picked up every bright pen that I could find, and I used it in this project. So can you tell I'm getting ready for spring and something bright? So here is the project. Here is the picture. And, on the package, there is always a sample of the project. So you always have something to follow along with. And if you look at it and break it down, do one thing at a time. Just do one thing at a time. You've got a pot here, you've got a pot here and here and here. Do the pots, do the birdhouses, change up the colors, however you want to do it. and then it will just all come together. It'll all come together. So let's move this out of the way just for now. And then I will go through these and show you what I'm using out of each set. But first of all, let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see what it is. So here is the actual set, and it comes with multiple things this time. So I added these little flying birds, and I don't really have a lot of birds that are in the air. And the other thing about the throwback too is I like to add things that are going to go with things that you already have. So that's a given. Everything that I do in the throwback is made to work with watercolor the way that we do it now. So it's changed. The rules of it have changed a lot over the years. And so now these projects are revised so that you can watercolor them the same way that you do all of these other projects. And all of these things are made to fit into these projects. So you can go back and use things that you have already. I also like to add things that maybe I don't have a lot of. And so they're also really useful to you and valuable to have with a set. So not just this large one, but I've added these 3 little birds that are going to go with it. These are all separate stamps. So they're flying different directions. And this little guy he's kind of tipped up. And then we've got this little one sitting right on the little birdhouse right here. So they look like doves to me. And when I colored it, I made it look like a white dove. So whatever you color it in, they're pretty generic. You can make these birds literally into anything. You could even make it into a cardinal by putting just a little hat on its head. So you can change these up just by the colors that you use on them. Making a robin, super easy to do. Bluebirds, any of those, these are going to work great for those. So these are really a nice size. They're about the size of this little bird right here. So you can see this, and you can see that this is all, of course, shrunk down really small, but they're about the same size. So they're going to go really well with these little birdhouses. The other thing I added was this little boardwalk. And I think this is such a cute little thing to add, an extra little detail that you can just set these things on. And there's something about an old rustic little boardwalk. You could continue it if you wanted to and make it longer. So you could kind of stretch it out and, add more things to it, but it will be really fun to use, especially things like in the fall when you're doing pumpkins, if you're doing some jack-o'-lanterns. It will be really fun to set those things on this little wood boardwalk. And I had so much fun making this and thinking about the uses for it. So I think this is going to be a really valuable addition. It's separate. So I left it separate so that you could use it for multiple different things without having lines missing. So you can see on here that, the lines are missing because this is sitting on top. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to stamp this, and then you're just going to cover it and position this right under it. And you would do that with anything. So for example, let's just say that you're just going to use these 3 things on here. And maybe it's easier to just look at it on the black and white. Maybe you're just going to use this pot, and this little birdhouse. Just these 3 would be so cute for a fall scene. And you could kind of decorate this up a little bit, make it look kind of, broken down. And then you could add, a pumpkin in the front, and you could set it on this little boardwalk. So anything that you have, a pot, a chair, any type of, any type of thing, that you have, that you could set on here will work on this little boardwalk. So I think, the sky's the limit. You could just set a birdhouse on it. You could just leave this birdhouse by itself, or just the birdhouse in a single pot on this little boardwalk. I think that would be so cute. You could also grow your grass up in between here, which would also be really, really cute. Now, I didn't do that on mine because I want you to see how to color this first. And then tomorrow, when we do the next project, we'll do that. We'll add some flower or some, some grasses that come up in between. So we're going to do another project tomorrow for Watercolor Wednesday with this image. So you have two different projects that you can do. But it's really cute to just surround it by some little grasses growing up into the cracks. So this will be a really fun addition to your collection to have is this. And then the other thing is the little birds in the background. So these little guys too, these are going to be so much fun to have, and they are the free set. So this is a set that you're getting with this group. So with this stamp set, with the throwback stamp set. Wow. Am I having trouble talking today? So with this stamp set, this is your free gift, and you're getting these little birds in the background. And I just am weak on this. I don't have a lot of this kind of thing for the background. And it's so fun to add these little silhouettes in the background. And keep in mind, you don't have to stamp the whole bunch. So you could just add one. Or maybe you just add, these three in the middle, or these three down here. So you can kind of pick and choose which little birds that you want to add onto your composition. Okay, Ruth Ann is saying you put the panda or fox on it. Absolutely. Yes, the little critters. Yes, exactly. That's right. So anything like that you could set on, and it also kind of finishes your project. And if you're looking to do something that looks a little cleaner, so not a lot of background noise, not a lot of busy florals, but something really simple, this is a really nice way to end it with just a little clean image like this. All right. So this is the free gift. So when you purchase the throwback, you're going to get this as a free gift. This will just come automatically. You don't have to order it. This is our thank you for buying the throwback. And I love this little guy. This is never for sale. These little exclusives are never for sale. They are just a thank you in addition to what you are purchasing with the throwback. So this is our gift to you. We also have our little promotional stamps. These are ones that we bring back also once every month. So this time it's the little crab, and it's been a few years ago now that we had come out with her. And what we do with these are a gift from us for a purchase. So if you make X amount of, buy a purchase order for X amount of dollars, you would get a little promotional stamp like this free. And that's how we have all of these promotional stamps. And they also are not sold. These were free gifts. So a lot of you collect these. And so every month we come out with a new one. So if you are collecting these and want to add these to your collection, you can do that on our website. Click on this. You can get this little crab now on our website. And to see them all, go to our website, artimpressions.com, at the very top where it says Get Inspired. Click that and you'll see the collector's guide. And it will list all of these little special exclusive stamps, including the throwbacks, you guys. So here is what you're getting. So this is what you're getting with the throwback. This is what you can also add to your order, is this little promo. And these, once they're here, they're here for 3 days, and then they're really gone for good. So we really wave goodbye to them. They're gone. But we give you one last chance to get it if you're collecting. All right, so is Charlie the Crab in rubber? These are all rubber, you guys. So the throwback started, good question. These all started in rubber, the throwbacks. And so we've kind of kept to that. We've kept them in rubber just for nostalgic sake and because they started out that way. So these are all three now in rubber, and you will get the little crab too in rubber. So let me show you now what inspired this. And it is this catalog right here. So this is the 1987 catalog. This is the one that I flipped through. And here is what inspired me with those birdhouses. And, I decided to go up instead of across this time. And I wanted to be able to add the foliage and everything in here. And I just decided I'm just going to go straight up with a post and add as many birdhouses as I could fit on the post. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 birdhouses. And then we've got 1, two, three, four, five little pots that go with it. So this is it. The number, the SKU is 1534. So this is an old one. This one is in the 97 catalog, but I'm not even sure when exactly it came out, what year. But the SKU number 1500 is pretty old. We are on SKU 6000. So there have been a lot of releases since that came out. This little stamp came out. And you see all the lines and texture in here? That just is not going to work for watercolor. And I really, really want these to work for watercolor. And of course, you guys that are Copic geniuses, and those of you who use different mediums, you can absolutely color them with those. And the difference is that I want you to be able to watercolor it too. So all of these lines in here, all of this busyness in here that is showing texture and is showing dimension, it's too much, because this would all just be too much color on here. And by the time you pull the color out of all of these dense lines, you would have no space to add any other color. They're just too textured and too busy. So I took those out, and then I added just enough lines that you could do this with watercolor. And then of course you can add the texture back in. So that is the difference. That's what I mean by revising these, because they are from so many years ago, and this was a different time when we colored, differently. Okay, who's looking at the bee? Terry. You know what? I just glanced at that too, and I thought, you know what? I wonder if somebody's going to want that bee. Bees are so big right now. They're so popular. And I thought, somebody might like that bee. Terry, you saw it. You totally saw it. Here's the other thing I looked at. Is this stack of pots right here, which is always really good incentive for me, because these are good for any occasion. And when you have a little group of pots right here, you can add whatever you have. You don't have to have any specific blooms to put in here. And you can also change out the seasons, which is really good and super fun. I want bees, Tanya says. Okay, I'm making a mental note of that, you guys. Love the flowers. You guys, this catalog took me a year and a half to do back in 97. This took me a year and a half, and everything was glued in. Everything was done by hand. I mean, I used colored pencils here. I can see all the mistakes I made. And so looking back on these, I mean, things have really changed since 1997. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so let's get to our project, you guys. This is a really fun one. And I'm always happy that it's fun after I've created it. So, and when I finished making it, I always think, okay, that's a really fun one. I think people will really have fun making this. And then that's just kind of like the icing on the cake. So let me zoom in a little bit closer, and I'll show you what I'm using from each of these sets. So this is foliage set 4. And again, whatever foliage you have, I'm just showing you what I'm using, but whatever foliage you have, you can use in here, whatever. And it's going to change it up a ton, which is a really cool thing, because you're going to make it your own. All right, so I'm using one of these little vines, these tiny little vines, and this little leafy branch. So we're going to be using this. That's it right down here. And this one is all just kind of in these pots here and there, inside here. This is just a really nice one to add to a pot, because it kind of blends out, but you can still get the detail of the stamp. So this is one of my favorites right here. I also like these little grasses. This is just a really good set. You guys won't regret if you get this one. This whole set is one of my favorites. But that's what we're using on here, these two. And then in here, I grabbed this one. So this little guy right here, I haven't used this in a long time, and it's such a cute little one. It looks like a little foxglove, and I just thought it went just perfectly up there. And I wanted something purple, and just in my mind, this should be purple. I just always think of it as being purple. This little guy, this one here, this is a really nice one to put in these small pots. This is another really good set, and it leans to the left and also leans to the right. So I've got the right leaning one, but you could also just fill all the pots up with the same florals, which is also really, really cute. I haven't done that in it's probably been years now, but you can go through, you can make all the pots, maybe terracotta, and you can put in the same flower and maybe change up the color a little bit. So if you don't have a lot of different florals to use, think about doing something like that. Just fill them all in with the same flowers. It's so cute. Anyway, I used this one and I put it right here in this little pot here. But again, you could use any of these florals, any of them. And then the little poppy set. I haven't used this in a long time, since last year. So I grabbed one of these little poppies, this one right here, and I added it to this little pot right here. So this one's really, this one's a really cute one, and it's small, so it just fits in these little pots. So these are good ones. This one is just a natural go-to. This is a great one to use. This is another one that you could fill up all of these pots with the same floral and change out the colors. It looks like a mum, like a pot of mums, and you can make it whatever color you want to make it. Any of these also are going to work. I also use this one down here in this bottom area. The little branches, this is just a go-to always. I just, add this anytime I have something that looks kind of like wildflowers or things that are kind of growing wild. I always add this little branch in here, and it kind of creates these little spindly branches that kind of look like it's just growing crazy. So this one right here. And then in the foliage set, here's where you could use these little grasses. You could surround this little boardwalk with grasses. You could put them into the crevice right here. I just used the little vine. So in this case, because I didn't use any grasses in here, I just used this vine right here to kind of grow up this vine along the post. And then in here, the grasses. When I'm doing something like this and I have a lot of different pots, I want to kind of change up the foliage and change up the texture so that it looks a little different. And so I always try to add some grasses. And this is just a really nice one to put in a pot. It's a really good size, and it always just works great. Any of these little things would go in here, just any of them. This would also be so cute in here to just stamp in. You could make it whatever color you wanted and just fill a pot. So just, when it's pots, there's no right and wrong way to add florals to these. Look how cute these florals are just on this image here. This one right here. Isn't that just so cute? That's this flower set. And let me show you which one that is. It's this one right here. It's this flower upside down. This one. And see how cute that is, stamped over and over again? You could easily put that in one of these pots and just be so cute. We didn't even use the daisy bunch. So you could also fill these with the daisy bunch that is in the, and I don't have it on the stack, but because I didn't use it. But the daisy bunch that is from the flower set, original flower set, you could use that too. So there's so many different ways that you can fill in these pots, which makes it really fun. All right, so let's move all of this out of the way and let's get to our project. So here it is, and let me tell you the size of this because you will probably want to know that. And it's a big stamp. So it is about 4.5. So it's going to work on an A2 card. So here's 5.5. So an A2 card is 4.25 by 5.5. So here's where 5.5 would fall on here. So that's pretty good. And then 4.25, you can see you have plenty of room for an A2 card, but this is about 4.5. 4.5 by about 2.5 is the actual size of this. Charlene, absolutely, you might win. So be sure to comment that in the comments that you would like to be in the drawing. And we will absolutely put you in the drawing to win the project for today, you guys. Vilda, yes, I am absolutely giving it away. Diana, Would it be possible to do the project with succulent cactuses in the near future? Diana? Okay, are you a mind reader? Because that's what the project is for tomorrow. Because I have not done anything Southwest in absolutely forever. And I just thought, talking to Kim, let's do a Southwest project with this because that would be so cute. I cannot believe you said that because it has been so long since I've done that. You just absolutely read my mind when I was talking about the project for tomorrow because that's what it is. It's going to be Southwest with all of those cute succulents and everything in these pots. Okay, you guys, my Southwest people, I haven't forgotten you. I just have not forgotten you. I just neglected you. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Diana, I know. That is so crazy. I just cannot believe you typed that. So funny. But yes, the one for tomorrow is going to be really, really cute. Tracy, absolutely you will be in the drawing. You of course will. So anybody that comments that you would like to be in the drawing or would love to have this project, just say it in the comments and we are going to pick a winner. All right, so let's just keep this in the screen and I'm going to just get my water and my palette out. And we are ready to get going on here. So I have stamped this in 2 colors. You guys, guess what they are? 2 colors. These 2. So 565 first, ink the whole thing, and 969. And what I did was, of course, I stamped this first, and then I used my positioner and stamped this underneath it. So I just kind of masked this off with some, Post-it tape, and then stamped it underneath it with my positioner. So same 2 markers, just, stamp it off at least twice. So with rubber, so these are all rubber, they hold the color. So you want to be sure to stamp it off twice. You don't want it to be too dark. You don't want these lines to be too dark. So you want to stamp it off at least twice onto a scrap piece of watercolor paper. So not cardstock, but watercolor paper. Be sure to do that. And then stamp it onto your canvas. So the third impression would be the one onto your canvas. And if you need to huff on it, you can just huff on it and you'll get a really nice impression, especially if you're using for a big stamp like this. You really want to use a stamp platform of some sort to help you because it's hard to get an even impression. Even if you add something underneath your watercolor paper, it's hard to get a really good even impression without a dark line somewhere or something missing in the middle. So use a stamp platform. And then you can stamp over it again if you're missing some spots. All right, so now I've dipped my brush in water and I'm pinching it off. And I've got this pretty light now, so I'm not going to get a ton of color out of it. And that's okay because I'm going to add, a lot of color to it. So you can see I'm getting a little bit here. And anywhere that I think it's going to be, shaded. So this would be the shady side on this side. So all of this down here as well. In here. In here. And because we're adding a bunch of color, we don't have to do too much of this. Under our little pots. And you can see that it's starting to look three-dimensional. Start to look three-dimensional for sure. Okay, and then we've got our little boardwalk here. That is just, it's so cute. This is going to be a fun one to have, that little boardwalk. Okay, so now let's go to let's go to the color. So we're going to start by adding some color to our palette, a bunch of color. So let's add some red. This is the 856. So this is 856. And then we want some of this bright teal. So this is the 407. And then we've got some orange, so the 933. And then let's see, what other colors do we need? Some brown. So the 947, this is a warm brown. 947. And let's see, what else? Oh, we need some dark blue for shadow. So this is the 565. And then let's see. Debbie, welcome. It's okay if you're late. We'll take you anytime we can get you. Hello, Cecilia. Welcome. Finally home to watch the live. So glad you're with us. It's not the same when you're not here with us, Cecilia. Bernadette, you will be in the drawing for sure. Elaine, hello. Yes, you will be in the drawing, Elaine, for sure. Lori, just retired, want to get back to watercolor. Would love to enter the contest to get me started again. Absolutely, Lori. You just got to dive in, honestly. And now that you're retired, you can just have fun. You know, when you have to, do that annoying thing like go to work, that can be so annoying when you just want to stamp and color. But now that you're retired, you can spend some time watercoloring and you can just join us on lives. That would just be great. We'll just be the best. Okay, so I'm going to start taking some color here and adding it to my, my little canvas. And let's just start at the top. So I'm going to make this little, this roof, this bright color. And let me just get a little bit more water on my brush. So my brush is, sometimes you have to really get it in here to, really get that water onto your brush. Okay, that's better. My brush was just a little dry. And you could come in here with a small brush too, and that would work. And let's just get all of this. This is the fun and stress-free part because we're just coloring. And coloring with a brush is so much easier because you don't have, the lines. You don't have the lines that you do if you're trying to color direct to paper with a marker. It's so difficult to get a really smooth, even color onto your canvas. It just really is because you got all those like lines on there, marker lines, and it's really hard. But a brush eliminates that. And so it's much easier to get a smooth impression. And then you just go over it again and you get a darker color. So you just need one color, one pen. Okay, so we've got a bright blue at the top. And then we're going to do a red roof. And we're just brushing it on. These are small little roofs, so we don't really have to worry too much about, highlights and whatnot on here because these are really small. And with red, it's going to take a couple of coats to get a really good, deep, vibrant red. And since we're in the red, let's get this little house too. So I colored this red, and then I think I just did it like a two-tone. And adding, decorative things like this, it really adds another dimension to it. Really does. I'm going to just go over here to the side too, since I came down kind of far with this one. And it just takes nothing to add, a little decorative idea, where you just color half of it maybe, or you color it in two colors, or you just make a stripe on it, which is something that I just always do. Stripes are me. Stripes are me in everything. Pots, birdhouses, just whatever. Okay, so let's add some red down here also. We're going to be adding some white paint. So, you guys, when it's florals and spring, we're into the white paint. We are into the white paint. Now here's how to apply the color. Put the color on both sides. Now this is a rounded pot, so we've got a highlight, and that just means we're putting the color on the sides, pinching our brush off, and then dragging the color to the middle. Just drag it over. And it'll just kind of fade out. And just keep kind of blending it in. It'll fade out and you'll get this lighter color in the middle. And then we're going to go and add another kind of pass of color here on the edges. And we're going to do the same thing again. Just drag that color over so that the center is lighter than the outside, than the sides. And we want this little pot to be pretty dark. Okay, so we've got that done. What else is red? I think that's all of the red right now. So clean my brush out. And when you're using red, just a warning, it wants to stay in your brush. So be sure to really clean that off. All right, so now let's do the whites. So the whites, the things that are white, like this little house right here, this little pot right here, they're still going to have a shadow. So in this case, the shadow is going to be on the side because this is the shady side over here. So this side is just going to be darker. We're just going to add blue to it. Just like so. And you see how that pushes that in the distance? Just doing that one little thing. And then we can just add a little shadow under the roof like that. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add this shadow along the edge of the pot. And you can see I'm not using very much color at all. So I've got a little shadow under there. And then in here on this little house, so the rest of this little house is white. So we want to add that shadow over here too. On the side of this little house. See that? Just all of a sudden it's now three-dimensional. Just works like magic, you guys. Okay, so now let's go to the blue. And we're going to add some of this blue to this little door. Like so. And then the little gable up here. Add some blue in there. You know, my stripes. So we've got some stripes on that pot. And then we've got this pot up here is blue. So same thing, same way. We're going to add the color to the edges. And then we're going to pinch our brush off and drag it to the center. And then we've got that little highlight there. And then we're going to do it again, just a little bit darker. And then let's just put a little shadow under the lip here. And I think I'm going to just get this a little darker on this little roof. So underneath, even though this is such a tiny little area, when you put all these little details together, it really makes a difference. It really does. And it brings your painting up to the next level. Just making all these tiny little adjustments on here. Okay, so now this pot right here, this is also blue. This one kind of in the background here. So we're going to do this, and we're not going to come down too far because we've got flowers that are coming in here. So we don't want to add too much color in here. So just kind of the very top of it. Same thing again. Add the color to the sides and then bring it over to the middle. And then show that highlight in the center. Okay, so that's about all we really have to do here. We could add, you know what, we could add just a little bit more color to the sides on this pot. And then let's go to the orange. So we'll go to the orange and we'll get this in. Same thing, this is a contour, so that just means it's rounded and it's going to have a highlight. If it's round like this, it's going to have a highlight. And so we have to show it. Otherwise, if we color this all in the same, it's flat. It's going to be flat. And then it just looks like a coloring book, you know, if you do that. But now that you've got this highlight in here, now it looks round. And, you know, to get that, you just have to make sure that the sides are darker than the center. That's all. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so we've got some brown over here. What else is orange? Let's do this little house over here. This is a bright little house. So I'm just, you know, and again, you can switch these colors. You could make this just so soft and subdued with, you know, some light purples and, you know, some yellows and greens, and it would just be so quiet and serene. Or you can make it really loud, like this one. This one's really loud. It's bright. But I kind of feel like we needed something bright, you know, when it's so dreary outside. And the more passes that you make over it, the darker it's going to get. And you can just keep adding color until it's as dark as you want it to be. This is such a beautiful color, and for some reason it looks really gold and kind of brassy on the camera, but it is a beautiful orange. It's so pretty. Suska, we're so sad you have to leave, but totally understand. Thank you so much. Catch the rest on replay. Yes. Have a wonderful day too, Suska. All right, so now we're going to take, you know what? I guess I did have some blue up here. So let's do this. Let's add some blue up in this section. And even, you know, if I'm doing it the same or I'm using the same colors, it's still going to look different. Every time you do it, it's just going to look different, which is really the fun part of it. Okay, so now I'm going to take some brown and I'm going to do this little house in the brown. Kind of wood, natural looking brown. And notice I'm staying in each section. That's also one of the rules. You have to stay in each section. You never want your brush to cross any lines. You want to just do each section one at a time. And then down back here on the side, this is going to be much darker over here because this is in the shadow. And let's get the little roof on here like so. And let's do this roof also since we're in the brown. Let's do this one. And again, stay in each section. Don't run your brush over any of these lines. That's so important. Okay, and I'm going to add some shadow now to this one. So here's that shady side again that is going to be in the shadow. So we're going to make this blue, this side blue, since this little house is going to stay white. And then the same up here. this little dormer. And then we want a shadow cast under here. And actually under here too. And we forgot this little guy. So this little terracotta pot here. So same idea. And then we don't want to come down too far because we've got flowers coming in this pot. So bring that over, pinch off your brush, and then drag it to the center. And then add just a little more color to the sides. And a little shadow underneath. And we can just, just do that to all of these. Put a little shadow under this pot. Get a little dark color under here. And then this roof also is brown. Kind of a little wooden roof. So we're just going to leave a little texture here. Okay, coming together, you guys. Marianne, make it look so easy. Marianne, this is a really easy one, honestly. This has got to be one of my easiest ones because, like I said, if you just break it down and you just do everything individually, you know how to do a pot. These little birdhouses, they're so easy to color, and then it's just honestly, it's just the details. It's just putting in all the details. So I'm going to put now some shadows in. So we're going to put a shadow underneath this little house because it's hanging over, and we want to show that the front of this little house is hanging over the post. We don't want it to look like the post is flush with the house. So in other words, the post comes right to the edge of this house. We want to look like it's hanging over, and we do that with a little shadow. And see how that just casts that shadow and makes it look like it's hanging over. Same with this one here. I'm going to make this look like it's kind of hanging over too. And this one is going to have just a little shadow here. And then here we're going to see a little shadow in here also. See that? Just that overhang of the roof makes a big difference. And then let's put one under here where this is hanging over. And then here. And that little roof, that's blue. So let's just do this really quick. Like so. Okay, so let's get just a little shadow in here, and then I'll just put a little shadow on top of that little stand. And let's see, where else? This is going to be pretty dark under here. And then maybe we just put a little shadow under there. And then let's come in with the twin tone. So here's where we really make the drastic difference is by putting the darks in. See these little dark openings for the birdhouses? That's what's going to make it really pop. Because you can see that this is still pretty flat looking, even though we've done all of this watercolor work. Until we get the dark in there, it's still going to look like that. So you see this little edge here? where the opening is, you don't want to color that. You want to leave that edge because that's the edge of the birdhouse. So that's the width or the depth of the board that makes the birdhouse. So we want to see that. If this is a cut out opening, you're going to see it from this direction. You're going to see the edge of the board. And that's going to show you how thick it is. So we always want to leave that. You see what I mean by seeing that edge? Let's zoom in a little bit. So the edge, see the edge of that board. Same here, because we're looking this direction now. We're going to see it on this side. If you color that all solid, it's going to look like it's got a brown dot on your little birdhouse. And it's not going to look like an opening. What makes it look like an opening is that edge, the edge of the birdhouse. Same here. Same here. We're seeing that same edge. You know, while you're looking to the side. So same here. We're going to see this edge on this side. And the other edge on this side. This one over here, and this one over here. And now you can see that really made a difference. And now in here we can do the little window panes. Like so. And then we're just going to make this, area in the peak of that house. We're going to make that really, really dark inside here. And then under here where you just would really see that kind of going around the back side, that's going to be really dark in there too. In here, under here. And in here also. You see how that just makes everything just kind of pop? And then these little perches. Okay. I think we got all the little dark areas. You see how, the little, let's get this one. And I added some now that I've got this in my hand, let's just put this detail in. So I added some detail to this little house. And that's totally, up to you if you want to do this. Make some little wood grain on there. And then this one where this wood kind of split a little bit here. We can just darken that a little. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. You can see that's just starting to come together now. So cute. Let's get some blue onto this part of the little house, little perch. And then we want to get a shadow in here. where that little house is, so to kind of set it back in the background. Okay, let's see what else. I think we got everything. Maybe let's make this just a little bit darker, this shadow. And here, make sure that's pretty dark. And then let's do the little boardwalk here. And we're just going to add just a little shadow along this side. And then take your little twin tone, and in these areas, you're just going to really darken these areas where these cracks are. And you can kind of bring them, clear up to your image. And, don't overdo it. But you can see that just really kind of enhanced it. And then just take a little water and just kind of muddy it up a bit. That's it. That's all you have to do. Isn't that cute? Okay, so now let's do the fun part. Christine, we're so glad you're here. She says, finally caught alive. Yay. Usually watch the replays. Yes, we're happy to have you on here. Hi, Bonnie. Do you paint more than one design before you are satisfied with the finished project? Oh, yes. Yes. Literally every time. Because I always see something that I think, and because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I think that, if something would look better, then I'm going to redo it if I think that it would look better. But I do. And, and sometimes I go back and I like the first one better. So, it's so subjective, but don't give up on your projects if you're not happy with it the first time, because many times I have gone back and changed it up because maybe I wasn't happy with the color I picked. Maybe I felt like I messed up on something or whatever. And I go back and redo it, and then I really like it much better. And then sometimes, like I said, I go back to the first one and think that I like that one better. So trust the process and don't be hard on yourself. And most of the times you haven't invested hours and hours of time. Now, I can't imagine actually painting a watercolor. I can't imagine that, because I would mess that up. I for sure would. And then I would want to redo it, and I've already spent, multiple hours on it. But with these projects, these are so quick and easy that if you redo it again, you're maybe 15 or 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. But it's really fun to see it changed up a bit. And when you look at it, especially this is what I do. I look at it and I think, oh, I wish I would have this, or maybe I should have this, or I'm not really happy with the color or something. And then I redo it. So yes, short answer to your question, yes, 100 times. Sylvia, hello from Florida. Lady D says, love your works, have a lot of your stamps. Glad to see these because it helps to use the stamps better. Yes, it really does, honestly, watching it. And anymore, and I'm so old school. I mean, we had, books where we would look up stuff and recipes and patterns and all of that. And now, if I don't have a video to see, even with a recipe, I'm going to go to where I have a video to watch, because I can just watch and just get it. Just get it immediately instead of somebody explaining it or reading it. So I love having a video. And so this is why I do this too, because I think it helps so much. And then when I see a question, I can deal with it right away and answer some questions that, if one person is asking it, probably a lot of you have thought it or wondered about it. So I love that we can be on here live. I can answer these questions. I can show you in depth instead of just typing out a few sentences. So I think it's a win-win. Marion says, I found when I'm unhappy with a painting, I put it aside and come back and look at it the next day. The next day, end up loving it. Oh, yes, I cannot tell you how many times I have done that. I can't even tell you. And sometimes I'm convinced that it's an absolute mess and I don't even try. I just finish it and think, well, I'm gonna just finish it up because, I'm gonna finish it. But it's gonna go in the waste can. And I come back and I'm like, you know what? I actually really like this. Yes, so it's true. It is so true. Jeannie says, yes, so visual. Me too. Me too. I am so visual. I learn so much better by seeing. Ellen says, yes, the little crab is rubber. Yes, he is. I already have the clear one. Yes, this one is rubber because it's coming out with the throwback. Yep. Yes, it is. Christine, love visual. Used to be pics and now videos. Yay. Me too. Yeah, then it was picture patterns. We're from the books generation where we had books and magazines for everything. And there were tutorials that showed you the progression of things, but actually seeing it in real life, it's just so much more helpful. And then it can just stay on there and you can go back and look at it, 5 years from now. So yes, it does. The next day it does look better. Yes, 100%. All right, so let's keep going here. And let's add the florals, which are just the absolute funnest things to do. So what you want to have for this is probably some Post-it tape, unless you want things to cascade over the edge of your pot. But, it's so easy to just tape off something, the edge. And then I leave a tiny little bit so that I can see where the edge of the pot is, because I can't tell you how many times I have stamped clear over past the pot. And that's really hard to fix. So I always try to leave a tiny little bit. You can see through it a little bit, but I try to leave that edge so that I can see exactly where my parameters are. So I'm using a green. I'm using the 177. It doesn't matter what green you use. And I'm just inking this up, and I'm just stamping this in here a bunch of times. And let's just get it in here a little bit more. And now we can take this away, and we've got the little grasses in here. And now we're just adding the water to it. And you can drag it down like this. You can drag it to the little pot. But see how that water just kind of makes it more abstract? And it looks like a watercolor. It just does. It's so cool. All right, so now let's come down here to this one. And we're going to let's just use that same green again, the 177. We're going to use this little vine over to the side. So we're going to use this with that poppy. So I'm just going to, let's put this on here again just to make sure I know where my parameters are. And I'm just going to add this kind of in here a little bit to the side. And then I'm going to grow my large vine up a little bit. And let's just use that same color, the same green. And I'm only using about, about a half of it. So don't ink the whole thing. You don't need it. Most of the time when you're using the little vines, you're just using parts of it. Same thing with this one. I only inked half. I just inked to here, and that's all. And then I just use the tip to stamp, which is the cool thing about stamps, is you're only inking the parts that you need. So we're going to ink this, and we're just going to start to grow this kind of up out of the pot. And I inked it, a few times. And remember, we're going to have stuff in here, so we don't want to encroach too much in here. So we can just kind of grow this vine just up around that post like that. And you can always come back and add a little bit more to it. And we're going to add some little white blooms to it when we're all finished. And just touch it. So don't try to go to each leaf and brush it, paint it. Don't try to do that. Just touch it, dab, and let it kind of bleed out. And get this, kind of watercolor look. Same with this one over here where we're going to put those little poppies. So now we've got that foliage in. So let's come down here and do this one. And we're going to use, let's use a different green. So we're going to go with the 249. These are totally interchangeable. You can just absolutely use whichever colors that you want. And I'm only inking the top again because I don't need this whole stem. So, and I'm just going to get, a little bit of this in here. Maybe just, one more out here. See how cute that is? And just, you can see that I stamped it, multiple times. So 1, 2, 3 usually when you're doing something like this. And again, just touch it. When these leaves are a little bit bigger into these leaves to kind of bring that color down. All right, so now this one, what are we doing here? So we're gonna put these little purple flowers in here. So we're gonna cover this again. So again, I can see where the edge of my little pot is. Do you want to finish stripe on birdhouses before doing the florals? If you think your florals are going to encroach on it a little bit, then for sure. So for example, with this stripe here, if I had a floral that was going to come up over the top of the house, then I would for sure do the stripe first. A lot of times I add it just as an afterthought, and especially with the white paint, I'll just add it as an afterthought. So I would say you really don't have to worry about it unless you think you're going to encroach on it, and then go ahead and do the stripes first. There's probably not a definite, yes or no to that. All right, so, and then this too, just tap it. Just tap it, because you want to just kind of see the texture of those little flowers. You don't want just a, kind of a blob of color. And then the little leaves, you can just add a little water to those. And then this one up here is, we're going to use this the mum stamp. This little guy is it's just one of my favorites. You can see how well used it is. It's so worn, but it's from an older set. And I love it because it's just an all-in-one, and it covers the area. You can mix it up, change up the colors, and it's just so cute. So we're going to do the bright. So let's do the 407, and we're going to get the blooms. So just run your brush over it. By the way, when you're inking your stamp, make sure you're using the side of it. So you're not coloring on it like this with the point. You're using the side. And let's do this other green. So this is the 249 green now. And you can always use your positioner. If you're afraid of, getting it into the right space, use your positioner, and and then you'll for sure get it into the right spot. And I'm just going to go over just the blooms again. And then we're going to just hit the green, which is just in this area here. And then these little dots, you're just going to tap them. You could kind of, hang them out a little bit. Need a little more green. I've got a little baby wipe over here, so I'm going to clean it off. And I'm just going to use the bottom part of the stamp. So here again, we're just using the bottom. We're just using parts. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to just add it in here. Oops, get it in the right place. So it takes a little bit to kind of get the feel of where we're doing is just putting some texture back in. And now you can see that grass a little better. You could always take, you know, your bullet tip and you could just draw it in too. You can totally draw it in. Okay, we're making progress, you guys. All right, let's put our little purple flowers in up here. And these are purple. So we're just going to do the blooms. So where is my purple pen? Here it is. We're just going to do the blooms. So we don't need the stems. And then we're just going to tap in here just however many that we want. And of course these are purple because I always see these in purple. And there's probably multiple colors, but for those of you who are gardeners, you know what all these flowers are. I just call them all generic. And I just make them whatever colors I dream up. So I don't know if any of these things really exist, but they do in my imagination. Okay, so I'm going to add this little long stem. This is such a cute little long stem too. And it is from, let me just show you what set it's from because this is an older one too. And I have used this so many times because it's so cute to just tuck in somewhere. It's this little guy right here. It's the cutest little flower to just kind of tuck in random places. So we're just going to do this in the purple. The little bloom is small, so you want to make sure you get enough ink on it. Be sure to get enough ink. And then we're just going to do a little bit of the stem, just a little bit. And let's do it again. Get a little bit more of the stem. And we'll just put one right here, and then where else? Maybe we'll just put one right here. And when you hit it with the water, it really activates the color. And it's just such a cute, kind of a sweet little bloom. Isn't that just cute? It's so cute. Okay, so now we just need to put in, let's put in the little branch. And so I'm just going to ink this. And I'm just going to kind of, you know, stamp it in kind of, you know, here and there. And it just kind of gives it that, you know, kind of a wild flower, like wild vines growing up. Okay, so now we want to get in our little poppy. Now with this one, this is an outline of the poppy. So we want to make sure that we get this in a white area. So with these things, you know, they're solid, so they can stamp over the tops of things. If you don't get it in exactly the right place, it's okay. But with these things that are outlines like this, you want to make sure that you get them into a white area like this. So I'm going to use my my positioner, and I'm going to ink it. And for those of you who don't know what a positioner is, it's just a little L bar like this. And it comes with a little acrylic plate, and it's small, so it's easy to travel with. And most of the time we're positioning little things, little small things like this. So we're going to ink this in the red and the green. And then we're going to stamp it right into the corner. And now we can see, okay, that's, you know, a good spot. And I don't think I need the stem at all. So, you know, I'm stamping it into all this greenery, and I don't really think I need the stem. I think I'm going to put one right here in this little white spot. So let's put this back. And then I'm going to clean this stamp off because I want to get the ink off of the stem. So I've got this all, whoops, did I just move that? I think that's close enough. We'll just take our chances. Okay, so we're just going to ink. We're going to ink just that little bloom. And we're going to stamp it right here in the corner. Okay, close enough. And then we'll do it again. We'll look over here and we'll put another one right here. Maybe we'll just turn this one a little bit. And we'll ink this again. I'll hit this one in this little spot. And then I think we got room for, you know what? Let's do one more. Let's see. Maybe we just put one. Where could we put this one? Maybe we just put it over here. I think it's. Okay. And then we'll ink it again. And you just want to make sure you don't move that positioner. Okay, so we've got these in. Now notice I didn't get the top of that, so I'm just going to use my twin tone and just kind of put that back in. You know, any of these little lines that maybe you lost or, you know, got washed out or whatever, you can just put those back in. So I'm going to use my, my little brush. Where is it? Okay, right here. I'm going to use my little brush, and I'm going to just start by pulling the color out of the lines. It's a, you know, when you're adding these florals, just try to put different things in so that they're not all the same, unless you're going for that look of having all the florals the same. But try to kind of mix up the textures, you know, so you don't have all the same kinds of blooms. See how cute those are? They're so cute. And then we can add just another bit of color from our palette. And we want to add that color to where these petals connect. So it's going to be much darker on the inside. Down inside these little blooms. And what that does is it turns the petal up. And it looks like it's, you know, connecting. So in here where it's darker, and it makes that flower look like it's kind of rounded. Isn't that cute? Facebook crashed. Oh, Marianne, good you got to YouTube. Yes, you guys, sometimes Facebook is just, it's really glitchy. But everybody seems to have a better time on YouTube. So if you can switch over and do that, that would be a great idea. All right, so now I'm going to take my red twin tone and I'm going to just add a few little lines back in here. And make sure that center of that flower is really dark. That's just so cute. So cute. All right, what else do we have? Oh, the little bird. So we're just pulling this color out of the little bird. We really don't have to do a lot with him because he's just going to stay white. So we can just leave him like that. And then we want to just add the eye back in. The little eyes always tend to get washed out because you're stamping in a textured, on a textured canvas. And so these tiny little details a lot of times will get lost, and we just put them back in. Okay, cute is this? Are we ready for our white paint? I feel like we probably are. Let's see, is there, oh, background. Let's do a little background. So I just used the same light blue, but you could also use this blue. Let's change it up. So this background here is this warm blue, the 407. So let's look at the difference. Let's look at it with the 567, and then you can kind of see which one you like best. So it's just the idea of the background. We're just putting in a little bit of this blue. Try not to touch. Don't touch your lines, especially if you have brown lines. And just kind of let it, you know, just kind of let it fade out a little bit. In here, you can add just a little bit of blue in between. It adds a little bit of dimension in here. If you add blue to your foliage. And blue just blends really well with green. It does. So let's just add a little bit more in here. And then we'll just put a little bit up here in the sky. When you're doing something that is tall like this, a tall tree or, you know, a post, anything like that, don't bring the sky all the way over to the top. Don't close it in. If you bring the sky all the way over to the top, it sort of stops the image. And if the sky is just on the sides, it just kind of keeps going. You don't know where the top of it is. I mean, it just looks taller if you do that. It's kind of an optical illusion. But it's kind of a cool thing to do. If you think about it, just don't bring your sky up and around, especially if you're doing something like a big tree. You don't want to end that tree. You want it to just kind of keep going. And you can see I'm just putting a little bit of blue in here and there. Okay, so you can kind of see which one you like better. This one obviously is warmer and this is a cooler color, but they're both kind of, they both look good. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little blue to this little guy, this little dove, just right here for a shadow. And then let's do the stripes on here. So I didn't do that. Let's do the stripes on this one. And you can just make them however or with whatever. I think I actually did it with the orange, but it's okay to do it with this one. And it's a little more texture in here. You can do that. And then, what else did I have? Oh, I had some red. I had some red stripes on here. And then where else? Oh, a little texture in the roof. And going back and doing the details, that's always just such a fun thing to do. You know, just doing the finishing touches. Okay, so now let's go to the white paint. Let's see if there's any questions here that I have missed. I think we're good. All right, you guys, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. I'll try to keep up here. Okay, so we're going to start out by putting these little white florals in that are kind of climbing up here. So I'm going to just dip my brush in water. And I didn't pinch it off. So I haven't pinched it off. I'm just putting it into my little jar. And just really covering my brush with this white. This is just the best stuff. If you guys are, whoever is new, if you're new on here and haven't used this white paint, you need this in your toolbox for sure. This is like magic because it doesn't bleed through. So you can add this white onto any kind of a watercolor, and it is water-based, but you can add it to a watercolor image, and normally any white is going to, because it's water-based, it's going to bleed through. So that green is going to mix in with the white and it's going to bleed through the white. This doesn't do that. It's bleed proof. It's Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white, and it works so great because you can just add these little white blooms, and it doesn't bleed through, and it just creates these little white blossoms that are just so cute. And you can, put as many on here as you want. They get a little smaller as they go up, and they can just be all different shapes. So even if they're shaped like a flower, they don't, depending on the angle that you're looking at it, they don't all look like that. They kind of look like just blobs, some of them. So that's what we're making. Just making these little florals that are different shapes. So I've got these little white flowers, and then we'll just put a few little dots in. And then let's put some else, a few more in here. Let's just add a few more in here. And I had some in here too, so let's just, once I start putting the white paint in, I mean, it's hard to stop. I just want like little white flowers everywhere. I put some up here too. And then we can do a little stripe. Should probably use my little brush. And then I did a little heart, which is really just two little strokes. Just so simple. If you missed your highlight, here's where you can put it in. You put your highlight back in, you know, in here. This will, adding a little white paint will make this look rough, you know, like it's just kind of a rough wood. What I had some little, see if I can do this without changing my brush. Nope, let's do the little brush. Let's get the tiny brush. And we just want to get it, you know, thinned out enough that you can make these little details. Like so. And where else do we need? We got everything else. Oh, I put some little dots in here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think we got everything. So let me clean my brush out. And Elaine, Bonnie, I still have my original stamp positioner, the large one. Oh my word. Oh wow, Elaine, the big giant T-square. It used to be a T-square and it was just huge. Oh my word, you still have that. That dates you, Elaine. That takes you way back decades with us. Thank you so much for being with us this long, because wow, that was before, you know, there were really, you know, a lot of stamp platforms. I mean, there was one out, you know, way back when. I think mostly, was it mostly Animals that came out with a stamp platform like years ago? And this was before we had photopolymer stamps, you know, everything was rubber. And it was hard to, you know, it was hard to position things. And so we had a giant T-square. And I mean, we just have this little tiny one right now because it just does the trick. But this thing was just, it was just huge. It was huge. Okay, so I'm going to use the orange, my bullet tip. And I'm going to just put some little centers in here. So let these dry. And you can see how cute this is. And these ones that are closer, I'm kind of making these little centers a little bigger. And then as that kind of, you know, goes up a little farther, you know, they're getting smaller up here. Okay, I think sign. Last thing to do is sign. 2025, you guys. That's been an adjustment for me. Doing the 2025. So I'm just going to make this just a little more rustic looking. And then these things, if you can see the top of these baskets, you could put in the little lines to hang them. So they have hangers, you know, and if you want to, you can. But by the time you've got all your florals in, I mean, you know, it's fine not to add it. Probably just add it in there like that. Okay, oh, you know what? I have one more thing to do that is kind of a big thing, is we need to put a little shadow under the perches. So the little perches on the birdhouses, this is a really important thing to do, is to just put a little shadow underneath. See how that it makes such a difference. And then this one too, just put one under here. Okay, all right. Let me switch over. Well, let me do a little recap here. So be sure and say in the comments if you would like to win. If you would like to win today's project, we'll put you in the drawing. And here is the throwback that we've done. And tomorrow we'll be doing another one. So there will be another project tomorrow with the Southwest theme that Diana suggested, and I had already thought of, and she read my mind when I was on here and suggested that. But that's what we're doing tomorrow. So here is the throwback set. It is called the Birdhouse Stand. It's number 6007. It is available until Thursday at midnight, and then it goes away, and it comes with all these different things. So it comes with these little birds that are actually the size of this one right here. And then it comes with, of course, the birdhouse stand. And then the little wood boardwalk comes with it. And these little birds are a free gift. So this comes together. This will come together, is all of these. And these little birds are they're so great. You could stamp them in the background, you know, with these. You could just stamp them back here, you know, 2 or 3 of them. And there would just be birds flying everywhere. And remember, you can just use a couple. You could just fly maybe just these 2 or just this one, you know, so you can just ink whichever ones you want. So this is our gift to you. This comes with this. So if you order this, then Christine says, when I'm watching that, okay, Christine, that is just a fabulous comment. She says, I have to be honest, but when I'm watching the playbacks, I doze off. Your voice is so soothing. Okay, I'll take that as a compliment. You know what, you guys? You can just sleep in your chairs while I'm talking. You have total permission to do that. Just take a nap. Absolutely. Okay, so this is our free gift to you. If you order this, you will get this. This is separate. This is the little promotion stamp. This is the one we brought back for this month, and it's the little crab. These are rubber. And this one is available on the website. So you can add this to your cart if you want to. It's available till Thursday for those of you who collect these and don't have the little crab. So you guys, these are available till Thursday, and I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow, Kim and I. So one of us will be back tomorrow to do the project. So let me switch over. Here we go. It's so much fun to be with you guys. Just absolutely the best. So I hope you will give this a try. Those of you who just have to have this set, you won't regret it, honestly, because I don't know. I think it's worth it for that boardwalk, honestly, to have that boardwalk in there. And then the little birds, the little flying birds, they're going to be a really nice size for things that you have already. And spring is coming. And you're going to have birds in your projects. I just know it. And if Kim's teaching it, it will have birds in it. So let's just say that. There will be animals of some sort in everything that she shows you. So birds will be used. And then these little ones in the background, I think they're going to be great. They're going to be really handy to have. So I feel like this is a really good rounded set and things that you will be able to use over and over again. So you guys, thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow for Watercolor Wednesday. Mary says, prayers for Kendra and her studies. You know what? I just talked to her this morning, and she was on call at the hospital until, I think, 1 in the morning. Can you believe that? These doctors do surgeries, emergency surgeries, literally all night. So it was crazy. She got home at, I think 1 and was back at the hospital again at like 5:30. So she is loving her life right now. She's getting no sleep, but she is loving her life and just loves every bit of it. So feels your prayers and misses her people and always wants me to tell everyone hello from her. So thanks, you guys, for being with me today. I had a great time with you. I hope that you guys had a great time too. It's always so much fun. I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. I feel like I'm talking to my people. So thanks for being on with me. I'll be back tomorrow, or Kim will. One of us will be back on tomorrow on Watercolor Wednesday. So hope to see you then. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your evening. And we'll see you tomorrow.